right, everybody, we're back at it like a crack addict in Mississippi, Biloxi, Mississippi, Biloxi, whatever freak it's called. As you can see, we got Pats, we got Obsidian Flame, we got Stellar Crown, and Temporal Forces, and Twilight Masquerade. We also have a Journey Together booster box. Can the camera focus on that? Can we get an amen? Nope. All right. Well, and a Journey Together booster bundle. We're gonna open up the Pats first and see what we can get. All right, let's start with our Twilight Master. Let me move this. A Twilight Masquerade. And if you hear any crackling sound, it is fried fish happening. As I am with my lover, and she is cooking fish. Yes, I'm in the kitchen because I'm in the kitchen. Nothing in that pack, but of course, let's rip open this Obsidian Flames. We're also going to be reacting to see if tariffs impact Pokemon cards. So, nothing. Oh, I've never. Have I done this before? I think I have. Hmm. Hmm. This is pretty cool. It's a Varoom full art. I don't know if it's worth anything, but we don't see. Then we're gonna get into some reactions. Ooh, I damaged. Ooh, I'm glad I didn't. If it was a full art that I damaged, I'd be pissed at myself. Oh, Morty's Conviction. This is a cool card. If y'all can't see it. I also play on the TCG Pocket Live app. If y'all ever want to add me, my username is I don't know, but let me fix this camera a little bit. Mm, Nothing in there. Let's open up a Paradox Rift. And also check y'all's local Dollar Trees. They do have Pokemon. This is actually a cool card. And a Tarriffs full art. Oh, not yet. Full art. Yes. Sorry about that. Got a few more packs to go. Let's see what we can pull. We already have two full arts, a trainer and a Pokemon. There's another Paradox Rift pack. I'm just gonna skip Evil. Open up an City of Flames. Last time I opened up one, I got the Charizard, and unfortunately, I sold it like an idiot. Nothing. I kind of knew that was going to happen. My luck has not been hot. Luck has not been hot. Yes. Yes, people. Luck has been running dry. Nothing. Good lord. Two more packs to go, and then we're on to the booster bundle. Pull this trash out of y'all's view. Two. Nothing. A Garden EX. It's alright. It's alright. Alright. Last pack magic, a Twilight Masquerade. What if we pull your Ninja? Definitely gonna pay back for everything that I've done. Definitely didn't pull Greninja, but that's just how it is. Okay? Okay, people, that's just how it is. Alright. Alright. Actually, let's do the booster box. Let's do the booster box. So let's rip this bad boy open. Oh, that fish smell good. Thank God I'm doing this in the kitchen. And we got an enhanced booster box with the box topper. Ends restaurant. Had about a few of those. Let's see what we got here. Start from the back. Pause. Also, like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you very much. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for the new subscribers. We're doing nothing. Oh, Jesus. We're going to review how the tariffs are impacting Nintendo. Because now I can't get my Nintendo Switch 2 pre-order. That kind of sucks, but that's first world problems, I believe, since there's people getting uh, unalived by the U.S. government, Israel, and all over the world. So I'm not really sad, and I'm just, yeah, man. Try this. Oh, that's good. That's good as hell. Yeah. Let's see why I keep you around, girl. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's good. How many pieces? Yeah, without the bone. As you can see, we are. Oh, another ferret. Okay. I thought we had two. Oh my god, I thought we had two full arts in the same pack. That would have been. I wonder if they do that. What? What is that? Oh. Well, also check your Pokemon centers, as this goes for a pretty cool penny. Check your Pokemon centers, as they are getting restocked regularly. And to the King Supers and Safeway employees, I hope you. Never mind. Nothing. What the hell? Nope, nothing. We are like 7 packs deep and only got one full art. I guess we had the EX, but good damage, bro. Sheesh. We are getting cooked. Cooked. Verizon. We are really getting cooked over here. I wonder if you could get a booster box and literally not get nothing. That's, I mean, ends, Zykin I mean, not ends, hops, Zyshin is cool. But where's the Salamence? Where's Lily's Clefairy? Where are the hoes? That's a Pokemon card. Nothing. All right. Also, if you want bulk given to like a kid of yours, DM me and we can make something happen. You pay for shipping, of course. All right, another Hopzation. I even take another one of the full art ones. Oh Jesus, I need tripped on this booster box. Bro. Bruh. Hopefully the other side got some better hits. Dog. That's crazy. Oh god, not another Mimikyu. Not another one. I have like 20 of them. I was trying to be modest because I did have one of the homies pick up some. My dog. This last pack magic. Let's see. Probably not. Probably not. Nope. Oh, well, yeah. Got two of these now. If anyone wants them, well, not one. I'm trying to master set it. So if anyone wants the one, almost close. Now I'm missing two cards. I forgot about that card. Clean up real quick. That was 18 bets. Maybe let's start from the front. Uh, Not another one. Lord Jesus. Blaziken, yes. Ooh. Favorite Pokemon, but not right now. That's not what we want. We gotta get those troll cards out of there too, so I can trying to build a ends deck. Dang, cooked. I'm going through this pretty fast. I know. Cooked it in. All right, journey together. People are saying you're sweet, but this is not sweet. This is muy bullshit. What? Hmm? What are you talking about? Sweet? No, I'm talking about this set of cards. Mm-hmm. Mm. I'm only showing the hits, but God Lord, these are not really hits. These are the riffraff. If I don't hit nothing else, this is crazy. This is a burnt out box. Burnt out. Shh. How many cards is it? 10 cards per pack. 36 packs, so that's 3,600. Is that 3,600 cards? Sheesh. Yep. 3,600 cards. Nothing. Straight. Nothing. Golly. I'm only showing the hits. Remember that, people. I'm only showing the hits. If I ain't showing it, there is no hits, and it is some heartbreaking things going on. Wow. Oh, Ken's restaurant, baby. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's a cool little hit. Even though I have about seven of those. But just counting. Hope everyone's having a great day. Also, like I said, like, comment, subscribe. Another one, bro. There's no way I got two. No. They ripping us off, brother. To complete this set has been a challenge. What is 5 times 36? What? 5 times 36. It's 240? Oh, nothing. Not even a full art well lord, bro. This is crazy. Not even a full art whale lord. Oh, I got chips on this box. This box is. I like when people do the like the. Sometimes, just sometimes I feel like, yo, they're just doing it for the money, which I guess we all are. That was crazy. Last pack magic, huh? Last pack. Oh, irons. Fighting spirit. Oh, what did you? Come on, we could get a Salamence or an Enzor in this. We can get it. And we got. Like that. Like, come on. Let's hope this booster box, booster bundle, has something. Jesus, this is terrible. Yeah, boom, boom. I wonder why they made Noibat a full art. Like, what was the thinking behind it? I guess we got 5. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 5 full arts. And oh, I'm tripping. That's not even from this. 3. Oh no, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 EXs, 9 EXs, I should say. All right, let's. Now let me put these in card sleeves, so people are like, "Oh, you need better than card. Shut up, B word." Okay, can't you see? I wonder has anybody gotten these graded yet, or sent them off to be graded. The world may not. All right, let's open up this booster box. Well, booster bundle. I keep saying booster box because it is technically a booster box because it's filled with cards and it's a box. So booster box. We have 6 packs here. Let's see. And then we're gonna reduce some reaction. So I will be cutting off the second camera. Another Noibat full art. That is quite hilarious because why not? Huh? I don't know why they did Noibat a full art, but not Noivern, which is the better Pokemon. You know, I'm not Pokemon Company, so nothing. We are at 4,000 cards, and not a single one was something major, spectacular. Oh Lord Jesus! Last patch magic. Last patch magic. This is actually a good card. I like this card. But not what we was looking. Noivat. I am not pulled another Lily Clefairy. I shouldn't have got rid of that other one. Let's see here. Nothing. Okay. We got royally screwed in the vidoes. But I do also like these cards that we got. Put them in some sleeves. And then, to the races with the reaction. If you're still tuned in, thank you. If you're not, screw you for tuning away. Like I said, like, comment, and subscribe. Comment and subscribe. I'm trying to hypnotize people. All right. And we are back to our regularly scheduled program. All right. See what good old Donnie T, besides destroying democracy, is doing. Hmm. She do a whatnot stream. She shows she do a whatnot stream. Need to figure it out. To do this.
Issue of Wii Sports. And 2 years ago, in an interview he did with IGN, he talks about this, that Miyamoto Next week is going to be the Mario Kart World Direct, 1 week from when this video is coming out. But there's been a lot of news and developments since my last video talking about Nintendo's statement that they are holding off on doing pre-orders in the United States because of the tariffs that were going on. Since then, my neighbors to the north, my cold Canucks up there, you guys know that Canada also had its pre-orders delayed to coincide with America, which is a very smart idea because the last thing you want is American scalpers with a passport heading north and then smuggling them back over like some sort of inverse drug runner. While yes, it is disappointing, I think it's better overall for everyone. Our president affecting your happiness, there's only one thing I can say about that. And to quote a Canadian, when the Canadian fires were coming down and producing a whole bunch of smoke over the northeast United States, to quote what they said to me, sorry. Log in. Oh, 300 platinum coins for my birthday. Thank you, Nintendo. On the Nintendo website, we now see that the first batch of invitations is going to be going out May 8th. So we know that pre-orders for the Nintendo Switch 2 are happening on May 8th on Nintendo's website. That may or may not be a date that they are going to be doing for all other retailers. There's actually some good news regarding the price. Famous Home Alone 2 star Donald Trump says that all of the tariffs that he's not going to back down from, they're just going to be on pause for 90 days. Well, for most countries. Donald Trump dropped the new tariff rates on imports from most US trade partners to 10% for 90 days to allow trade negotiations with those countries. This directly impacts the Nintendo Switch 2. Between Japan and where the Nintendo Switch 2 and its accessories are manufactured, they're now only looking at 10% tariffs instead of 46%. So that is an almost negligible cost, so we may not see the price of the system and accessories in the United States and Canada not go up in price. I'm hopeful for it. I'm not saying it's guaranteed, I'm not saying it's confirmed, but I'm definitely hopeful for it. China, not so much though. So tariffs imposed on imports from China are receiving 125% tariffs effective immediately due to lack of respect that China has shown to the world's markets. This is the worst timeline. Scalpers. Scalpers have turned to eBay, but it seems like eBay is turning back on them. If you were to go ahead to eBay and look for pre-orders of the Nintendo Switch, you're gonna see that not a lot of listings are here. Well, at least not in the US. Other countries like Australia, I find the City of Games listing over here. The Australian dollar is much cheaper, so the console and the games digitally and physically is cheaper in Australia. So the Nintendo Switch 2 is estimated value of $467 as per this reseller. Will not ship to United States. Future Austin, block out my address. As far as the games, there have been some questions and, to summarize it, very not clear information on large games. Through various media sources, we've been told mixed things. Well, one, Cyberpunk is confirmed to fit on a single 64 gig cartridge, which is great news. It may also need patches on day one, but day one patches are just part of gaming now. It's so you get a better experience, bug fixes, and patch exploits. But there's also a new thing going around called game key cards. This is a game key card. It's a Nintendo Switch 2 case, and it has a big game key card here at the bottom, which, by the way, is a physical cartridge. This physical cartridge is a key for a game. The good news is this is not directly linked or tied to your Nintendo account. So this cartridge, which is a game key card, can be sold at a reseller, traded with a friend, sold back to GameStop, whatever you want to do with it. This game key card is to be treated like a real game. When you put it into your system, it's going to download the entire game. When the first time that you launch it, you have to be online. That way it knows that it's on an authentic console. I would imagine, although I haven't seen it reported anywhere, that if you were to eject this cartridge and then put it back in, it would then need to once again communicate with the server, or possibly it holds on to that information. That specific thing has not been specified anywhere, which, you know, could affect you if you're on an airplane, you want to switch between multiple games. It's not clear at this time, but just know that game key cards are not the same thing as you buying a sleeve that has nothing in there and just a key to download to your account. We have confirmation that the Nintendo Switch 2 won't have achievements because they hate us. Why not? Why not? This makes me feel like I've completed something as a gamer, but nope, it's still not going to have achievements. A bunch of Switch games have achievements inside of them, like even Mario Party Jamboree has an achievement.
Huh? What? Oh yeah, I gotta take care. I forgot that.
What is it?
From the old place. Oh, I disputed that. We shouldn't have owed shit. They were still charging us. I forgot. October to December. Hello? Hello? Yeah. Yes. Yes. You know, we'll just call Excel directly and ask them like, can they wait? That's their a debt collector for them. You should just go and pay it, or you can call Excel and be like,
Are you still streaming?
hmm? Yeah. No, I'm not. It's not.
System to unlock different courses and stuff, or sorry, different game boards, maps, whatever they're called. Zelda will have in-app achievements, but no system-wide feature is planned. I think that's a Japan thing. Thanks, Japan. There was also a question regarding games that have the upgrade. So if you walk into Walmart after the Switch 2 comes out and you see the red box Breath of the Wild for the Nintendo Switch 2, is it going to be a copy of Switch 1 Breath of the Wild and a key to download that $20 upgrade? Or is it going to be a red cartridge with Breath of the Wild for the Switch 2 that runs with all the enhancements bundled in? And we now have confirmation here, the Nintendo Switch 2 edition of a game on physical format, you will receive one cartridge with the upgrade already in it. However, if you have the game for Switch 1 and only were to purchase the expansion update, you would then receive a digital download code. Yes, we know how this works, great. So, if you buy Breath of the Wild for the Switch 2 red box, then you're good. I think it's smart that they're doing the whole different color box and they're going for a red box, kind of like how they did the blue boxes for the Wii U. Because, you know, it's the same physical format. Also, we have confirmation that the Switch 2 cartridges are gonna taste bad. If you didn't know, and there's a lot of people who don't know this because I can't believe how many TikToks have been posted about it, the Switch 1 cartridges have a coating on them that make them taste gross. You can try this at home. Do it. Nothing bad will happen, I promise. Don't eat it. Do not swallow it. Spit it out. Saying that like my dog Charlie, who... The reason I haven't been making a lot of this news is because he's been having some issues. He's going in for surgery this morning, and this is me actually doing my job. So here we are. But yes, the news is that Switch 2 cartridges are also going to taste bad. This is so children and pets don't eat them, damage them, etc. Regarding the joysticks that are infamous for the Joy-Con drift affecting the Nintendo Switch 1 Joy-Cons, it's confirmed that the Joy-Con 2s are not going to have Hall effect sticks. Every single joystick is susceptible to drifting. It's just baked into how they work. It's just a question of how resistant it is to that point, and the Hall effect sticks in the Joy-Con ones were not that resistant. Nintendo made a statement saying that they re-engineered the joysticks from the ground up. This could be a new first-party joystick, this could be a joystick from someone else. We don't exactly know. There's a lot of theory and speculation. I have not seen concrete proof one way or...
And with that, we see that you can't buy the Nintendo Switch 2, or you can't traffic it and import it by going to Canada. You probably could go to Europe, spend $800 on a plane ticket, and fly there and spend $700 on the Nintendo Switch, and then fly them back, and possibly sell them here for $2,000 to $3,000 until they can be released fully here. So you might be able to do that.
the other. So
20 reasons.
This week, we're hosting a free trading and investing workshop right here in Denver. Inside this workshop,
From the heart of where innovation, money, and power collide in Silicon Valley and beyond, this is Bloomberg Technology with Caroline Hyde and Ed Ludlow.
Live from New York and San Francisco, this is Bloomberg Technology. The trade war between the US and China, it continues. China raising its own tariffs on all US goods from 84% to 125% starting tomorrow, after the US raised tariffs to 145% on China. China saying, your tariffs are a joke, United States. It's no joke to investors. What an extraordinary week we have had. We are currently up almost 6% over the course of the past 5 trading days, Ed, on the NASDAQ, but it really doesn't paint the picture of the extent of the whiplash that we've seen throughout that week as we pull back on tariffs towards other nations. Look at what we've done on the month, though. This context is needed. Sure, we're up on the week. On the downside for the course of April, the trading month, we're off 5% on the NASDAQ 100. Dig into the details, Ed.
Yeah, I'm looking at the chip sector, and across semiconductors, there's divergence in the session between fabless names, those American companies that design chips but don't make them, and those with domestic operations in the US. And buried among the headlines overnight was the Chinese regulator and industry body saying, by the way, when we think about tariffs on US goods imposed by China, this is how we'll define it. You and I are going to get into that throughout the course of the show. We have to talk about Apple. I feel like Bloomberg Technology as a show was early to this discussion on Monday. Will the US build an iPhone in the future? 5 days we're higher, but it's been so volatile, and the analysis from different corners of the market is so different. I think we should get into it, Kara.
We should, because we've been debating time and time again, a made in America iPhone is the goal that President Trump believes could be a reality, Ed, but replicating China's advanced supply chain, its skilled labor in the United States would prove nigh on impossible for the tech giant. Anurag Rana of Bloomberg Intelligence joins us. You've got a new note out just talking about the implications of tariffs on the margin of Apple. But what would it do to the margin of Apple if they ever brought production for the iPhone to the United States, Anurag?
See, I think a lot would depend on the raw materials that go there, the component cost, the labor cost, and I think it'll be very hard for Apple to, let's say, raise the price of the phone to 2x and then make it in the US. It has to be done in a way that actually keeps the cost down. And at that point, keeps their margins. The reason why Apple shines compared to any other consumer electronics company is because it has very high gross margins compared to, let's say somebody who just sells an Android phone in Asia, for example.
But those margins are under threat. Team, let's bring up Anurag's research that published, I think, about 30 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago. I'm just going to read it. Our analysis suggests a margin impact of 100 to 170 basis points for every 10% tariff increase on China manufactured products. Apple could mitigate some of the impact through price increases. You've been talking about price increases all week. The key question seems to be where, and you think that will be on the services side, not on the handsets.
Because as I said, it's very difficult to take $1,000 phone and double it up to 2,000, but it's slightly easier to take a $299 iCloud plan and let's say make it up to $5 or $7. And also remember, some of those revenue streams when it comes to the services business, especially cloud services, they have very high incremental margins. These are products with 75-80% gross margins. Much more than the product side of it, and it doesn't really pinch the consumer that much. And they could phrase it as it's only going to be done over the next 6 months or the time period when the tariffs are, and then they can scale it back. I think from a consumer,
how is Apple's margin relying so heavy on the iPhone versus its services? The services only make up 21.2%. Wearables and accessories make up 9.5%. Mac makes up 7.2%. iPad makes up 6.5%, and the whopping 55.6% relies on iPhone. How is the services not heavier? I would think the services should be 41%. I just cut off that godforsaken what's that thing called? What is that called? Apple Care. Cause anyways, yeah.
point of view, it is less, it hurts them less. But again, that's just one service I talk about. There could be others as well. But I feel very, strongly that I don't think they can raise the price of a phone up by, 50, 60%, maybe slightly, maybe 5%, 10% or so. But anything above that, I think destructs demand.
Anurag Rana, Bloomberg Intelligence, thank you very much. Let's stick with Apple and the impact of tariffs on technology. Tony Wong, T. Rowe Price Science and Tech Equity Portfolio Manager, joins us now. Apple, the #1 holding of T. Rowe Price's Science and Tech Fund that Tony oversees. Tony, when I was learning about the technology industry and the markets and making my way through Bloomberg Television's newsroom, I was always told that Apple and names like it had an entrenched market position, strong balance sheet, and in crises or recession, that's where they would survive and thrive. But I think right now, you can't necessarily look back at history and precedent. How on earth are you modeling the future of this company?
Nationwide is more than you think.
Yeah, their client-ready market updates make it easier for me to guide clients, giving me more time to keep plans on track. Total time saving.
Okay, say that 3 times fast.
Total time.
You can now because you have more time.
Genius.
Yeah, well, it's a great question. Obviously, it's historically been kind of a balancing name, just that could weather a real kind of stock market storm. I'd say here, I think that there is a lot of fear in the market and concerns about trade war and what deglobalization could possibly do to kind of Apple's manufacturing advantage in China. And so, when I take a step back, they do have diversified supply chains. I think they do have the ability to move around, and they do produce iPhones in India. And when you think about the U.S., the consumption of iPhones is roughly 25 to 30%. And so I expect that there's probably some flexibility to move some of that production to India more and therefore diversify that risk a bit. And, at the end of the day, I think that it is about how much of a staple the iPhone is. And so if there's price kind of sensitivity among the customer to actually, pay up for the iPhone, I think that actually could be bullish for the stock. That just demonstrates it's more of a staple than people appreciate. But here, I do think that there is a lot of fear there, and so generally, historically, you've been rewarded for leaning into weakness.
Then in this weakness, Tony, yes, on the day, Apple is trading somewhat higher. On the week, it is too, but on the course of the month, it's down 14%. Have you been adding to your #1 holding? Has it at any point looked attractive to get back in with more addition?
I think, the company's still really well positioned over the long term. You look at the ecosystem they've built, the quality of their product, and then potentially you also have an iPhone upgrade cycle coming. And, replacement cycle has been elongated. And if you get a new form factor, I think that could be really attractive. And, at the end of the day, the valuation has become more attractive, especially at these levels versus where they were, 6 to 9 months ago. In addition, it is one of the Mag 7 that hasn't been spending a ton on large language models. So the capital intensity and the free cash flow quality of the company is still very, very high quality.
Go there, Tony, for a moment, because people were wringing their hands about Apple before the trade war because of a lack of urgency on AI, the implementation within Siri. This distraction that tariffs cause, does it set them back even further about upgrading the product from an AI perspective?
If Apple comes out with a new form factor, it's going to do well. Also, its positioning is very interesting because it has not been innovative for the last 10 years. If it comes out with something very innovative and that changes and shakes up the market, they will put full hands on deck and put their dick on the table and make sure that they stay #1.
Well, I think that they are, constantly optimizing their supply chains. Obviously, it's additional work on their plate, but I don't think that they are standing still on the AI front. I think they are investing more. Actually, if you see that, some news of them purchasing more GPUs, and when I think about the space, there's just a lot of things evolving, and what we thought a year ago has kind of changed in a lot of ways in terms of who can participate in AI and like what these large language models can cost and which one is the best. So every time, it feels like every month there's a new headline of who is in the lead, and so it could be prudent of Apple to kind of focus on what they're really good at, what their competitive advantage is, which is designing really high quality products that fit into our lives, that can be incorporated elegantly, and at the end they do own that kind of ecosystem, and over time I think they can derive value from that for their shareholders.
Tony, let's end this conversation on Apple with a yes or no. Does Apple manufacture and assemble an iPhone in the United States in the future?
I think it's possible in the very kind of long-term future. I think in the near term, you look at kind of what it takes to manufacture an iPhone. I mean, there's thousands of people that are living at the factory that can be woken up at, any time of the hour to make a change. And so, I think that in the long term, that could be possible with additional advancements in robotics and AI, but I don't think it's going to be a next year kind of thing.
Right. I saw a headline overnight that we think is critical, right, which is China's Semiconductor Industry Association issued this emergency notice. And they clarified that in the context of tariffs, they define point of origin where a semiconductor is taped out. In other words, where the electronic instruction set is formulated before it goes to the fab. And if you think about the fabless US names, many of which you have big holdings in, they use TSMC or maybe Samsung, so the tape out happens in those countries as well. How much insulation do you think that gives them from the heavy China tariffs on US products?
Yeah, well, I think that if you take a step back, right, like the two countries have been trying to disentangle each other from major kind of supply chains and, areas of where if you can substitute a domestic product, that would be preferred. And that's nothing new over the past few years. And I think that, this kind of the latest piece of news is further kind of a step in that direction where, it doesn't make sense to hurt yourself by kind of tariffing the only source that you have. And so in terms of stuff made in TSMC, both countries need that. So it makes a little bit less sense to put a high tariff on that when it's sole source. So that's kind of my perspective. That it's a continuation of industrial policy that kind of makes sense.
Let's talk about the others, though, that are exposed. Now, I'm interested as to whether you have holdings in those that are manufacturing in the United States or looking to even more with, of course, money coming from federal government wanting them made in the US, and what that does to the business model if they ship to Asia, to China specifically, Tony. Do you have to get out of Intels and Texas Instruments?
Well, I think that over the long term, it's more about the technology and the differentiation and what you can, the value add that you can. So if you have leadership products, I think that's still number one. I think number two, I think that diversified supply chains, like serving the local industry that it's based out of or the region, is probably going to be a good thing. And so at the end of the day, I think it's those two things, like some flexibility in manufacturing, but the main thing is the product leadership and the secular trends that a company is kind of positioned to capitalize on.
Tony, like all technology investors, you have had to digest and understand communication from policymakers. How would you rate and rank what you've heard from the President, Treasury Secretary Bessent, and others?
Well, I'm a tech investor, so geopolitics is above my pay grade, obviously. But at the end of the day, I think that the U.S. administration and the leaders that we have elected, they will do what's best for the country, for our companies here in the U.S. So I think at we need to trust them, and they do. I think they are trying their best, and at the end of the day, I think that they will protect American interests. And what's most important is keeping U.S. technology at the forefront, that's what I look for as an investor.
Tony Wang, thank you so much of T. Rowe Price. So important to have the investor take today and after one long week. Coming up, we'll take a look at how Chinese tech investments are handling trade tensions and outlook for a TikTok sale to a US buyer. We've got Lead Edge Capital's Mitchell Green joining us, a holder in ByteDance. This is Bloomberg Technology.
Centex customers can get affordable special financing offers through its affiliate Pulte Mortgage.
Time investor in names like ByteDance is with us. Mitchell, have you been adding to ByteDance? What do you make of where we stand in terms of TikTok in the United States?
Yeah, hey, Caroline, thanks so much for having me on. What do I think? We can talk about that for a while. The company continues to obviously do very well, as we've said in the past, in the grand scheme of things. Uncertainty kills deals. I wish I could tell you exactly where things stand in this negotiation between the White House, ByteDance, the Chinese government, discussions around tariffs. Look, we've always had, frankly, questions on U.S. TikTok. Again, as I've mentioned in the past, we model out TikTok USA to be worth zero. I suspect something will come of it. I don't know if it's in a month from now, 3 months from now, from 6 months from now. We shall see. It is obviously a very valuable business that a lot of constituents want to figure out, not only board members and shareholders and the CEO of ByteDance, but we now have this giant tariff war going on between the U.S. and China, so it's all going to get dragged into it and play out together.
Mitchell, you've been on the secondary market picking up ByteDance in recent months. Would you want exposure to U.S. TikTok if it was indeed extricated out of ByteDance and had U.S. ownership?
Absolutely, and we have also not bought any ByteDance shares this year. There's been some changes with CFIUS. A lot of people don't know about this, but publicly known that CFIUS came out and put some restrictions on what kinds of companies you could buy globally related to if the AI model speed was fast enough or not. It's a questionable area if ByteDance falls into this or not. But in order to just stay conservative and be on the right side, we have not bought any more over the last several months. Would I like to own TikTok USA? Absolutely. If they allow existing investors, and again, about 60% of investors in the company are non-Chinese investors. If we could add to our position, obviously it depends on price. We could be quite interested.
Mitchell, starting Monday night into Tuesday morning, I started getting phone calls that there was quite a lot of activity on the secondaries market for ByteDance. Valuation range 280 to 320 billion, depending on the offer lot size, right? But to your point, what I was told is a lot of that activity was from Asia, right? China, maybe Singapore. But it followed the president on Sunday night. You may have seen the clip on Air Force One saying if it weren't for tariffs that he'd put in place, they had a deal. How do you interpret that trading?
TikTok is evaluated at $300 billion? No way. TikTok's U.S. unit could be worth as much as $50 billion. This is June 200. TikTok is worth $268 billion. CowStore is worth $276 billion. Combined market cap of Zoom, Pinterest, Snapchat, Chipotle. I forgot what brand that is. And PayPal are combined for $261 billion. That's pretty crazy, actually. That's actually hella angry. What the? Are they making moves to delink themselves from U.S. amid Trump's trade war? Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, he does.
Thinking about going solar, but not sure whether it's worth it for your home? Well, before you get...
On so-called Liberation Day, Trump threatened to whack a 34% tariff on all Chinese imports coming into the United States, to go on top of the 20% tariff he imposed a few weeks ago. This was already pretty insane, but when, in the spirit of reciprocity, China threatened to impose its own 34% tariff on all American imports coming into China, Trump responded by adding yet another 50%. There was some hope that this was a bluff, but on Wednesday morning, Trump went ahead and raised the flat tariff rate on Chinese imports to an astonishing 104%, which means that if you're an American trying to import something from China, you have to pay more in tariff fees than you're actually spending on that product. The CCP have insisted they won't back down, but it's clear that slapping tariffs on American imports isn't going to change Trump's mind. So, in this video, we thought we'd take a look at China's nuclear option in this escalating trade war between the world's two biggest economies, namely dumping all its American bonds, whether it could actually happen, and what this would mean for the global economy. Explore which world leaders are winning and which are losing every week with our new podcast, The World Leader Leaderboard. Find it over on the TLDR Podcast YouTube channel or in your favorite podcast app. So to understand this story, you need a bit of context. As you probably already know, the US runs a massive bilateral trade deficit with China. In other words, the US imports a lot more Chinese stuff than China imports from the US. The US also reliably runs the biggest overall trade deficit in the world, i.e. it imports more than it exports overall, while China reliably runs the biggest overall trade surplus. In many ways, this is the defining feature of today's global trading system. China exports more stuff than it imports, and this surplus is essentially absorbed by the United States, in the form of American consumers buying tons of Chinese-made goods. So how does this keep happening? After all, trade deficits are usually temporary, because importing more than you export eventually puts downwards pressure on your currency, which ultimately forces your trade to balance. Just imagine if, say, Argentina imported more than it exported, as has often been the case. When Argentines import things, this essentially involves selling Argentinian pesos to buy foreign currencies, and then using those foreign currencies to import foreign goods. When foreign countries import from Argentina, they will essentially buy Argentinian pesos with their foreign currency, and then use those pesos to buy Argentinian goods. When Argentina is importing as much as it exports, pesos are being bought and sold in equal amounts, so the pesos' value should hold steady. But when Argentina is importing more than it's exporting, then more pesos are being sold than bought, which should push the value of the peso down, reducing Argentina's imports and increasing its exports until its trade account is balanced and the peso stabilizes again. So how does the US get away with running persistent deficits? Well, this is a hotly debated question in macroeconomics, but at least some of it has to do with how China recycles its dollars. When China exports stuff to the US, it gets lots of US dollars in return. Now, usually this would push up the value of China's currency, the yuan, via exactly the mechanism we just described, and ultimately balance China's trade account. But China likes having a devalued currency because it keeps its exports competitive. Devaluing your currency is way easier than overvaluing it. China just gets its central bank to effectively print more yuan and then use those to buy dollars on exchange markets, strengthening the dollar and therefore weakening the yuan. Nonetheless, this still leaves China with a massive pile of dollars, which China uses to buy US government debt in the form of treasuries. Today, China holds some $800 billion worth of treasuries, making them the largest foreign holder of US government debt after only Japan. While this is less than the $1.3 trillion or so China had in the early 2010s, this figure probably understates the true value of China's treasury holdings, because, partly in reaction to pressure from Chinese nationalists who don't like the idea of China lending to the US, China has recently shifted its treasury holdings off its official books onto state-adjacent entities instead. China has also started buying other forms of US debt, like mortgage-backed securities from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which is sort of indirectly US government debt, because both agencies are backed by the federal government. So why is China lending the US government billions of dollars? Well, it's in part because treasuries are the world's reserve debt instrument. There are tons of them floating about, which means they're easy to sell, even in a crisis, and they pay a nice interest rate. But it's also because it strengthened the dollar and allowed the US government to spend more, essentially propping up American demand for Chinese goods, perpetuating America's trade deficit and making America more and more dependent on Chinese manufacturing. This has created a sort of mutual interdependence between America and China, sometimes nicknamed Chimerica. China relies on America to buy its stuff, and America relies on China to fund its debt. In the current trade war, Trump is leveraging China's reliance on American consumers, which has raised the question, could China leverage America's reliance on Chinese lending? In other words, could China dump its treasuries and other American government debt? Well, there are reasons to be skeptical. For starters, selling dollar-denominated assets would cause an appreciation of the yuan, which would make it even harder for Chinese exporters to sell their stuff abroad, and it's not clear where else China could park their cash. But perhaps more importantly, China dumping its treasuries and other American bonds could cause a full-on market meltdown. China only accounts for a small fraction of the overall treasury market, and in normal times, it might push up American borrowing costs, but the US could probably handle it. However, as you might already know, the US is already almost in debt crisis territory. As we're writing this on Wednesday morning, treasuries are being sold off at record rates as investors flee America, which is pushing yield.
So he's saying America can't rely on itself in any capacity because we've become the economic pallbearer for the entire world. Interesting.
Yields, i.e. the interest the US has to pay on its debt, up to recent highs. If China were to dump its treasuries in this context, it could be the straw to break the camel's back, and perhaps even push the US into full-blown default territory. This would be terrible for America, sure, but it would also be terrible for the entire global economy, China included. This is the reason China actually refused a Russian plot to dump their mortgage-backed securities and exacerbate America's economic crisis back in 2008. Nonetheless, if Trump continues his assault, the CCP might decide that, if there's going to have to be a global economic crisis, it might as well be on their terms. This story, like much of the news, is worth paying attention to in the weeks ahead, because with geopolitics in flux and Trump throwing the international order up in the air, there's a lot to keep an eye on. Every day, we're faced with weird headlines, from Musk declaring anyone who looks at him the wrong way a terrorist, to Trump declaring war on Jupiter to try and regain some extraterrestrial allies. Okay, that one wasn't real, but we do dive deep into the weird world of US politics in our series WTF USA. That's our show where we take big moments from culture and social media and try to explain the political implications of, say, Musk running around trying to put out Tesla fires. Unlike some of our other serious videos, the tone of WTF USA is more lighthearted and takes something of an irreverent look at what's going on. If you're interested, WTF USA can be found exclusively on Nebula. Nebula is also the home to other incredible original content from your favorite creators, like Real Life Law's series War Room. Given how much conflict and geopolitical disagreement there is right now, it's hard to stay on top of everything that's happening. So the show attempts to get you up to speed every month, explaining everything that you've missed and helping you feel more informed. If you didn't know, Nebula is an independent, creator-owned streaming platform that specializes in thoughtful content, from creators like Real Life Law, Wendover Productions, Legal Eagle, and Neo. It's not just WTF USA either. You can also watch every normal TLDR video on Nebula ad-free, and in some instances before they land on YouTube. If you're not a member already, click the link in the description to get 40% off. That's just $36 for a year, or $3 a month. So take the news a little less seriously and check out WTF only on Nebula.
Well, there you have it. And let's see, China. We don't care.
The United States is still imposing tariffs on China, and China is firmly opposed to such bullying. China will absolutely not accept pressure, threats, and blackmail. That is not the right way to deal with China. If the US side really wants to talk, it should show an attitude of equality, respect, and reciprocity. If the United States ignores the interests of the two countries and the international community and insists on fighting a tariff war and a trade war, China will certainly accompany it to the end. The United States is still imposing tariffs on
Is that in this scenario, to use your metaphor, the US has the bigger gun, and so China ends up having more to lose from this trade war, doesn't it? You know, it can't sustain the loss of 15% of its export market, i.e. what you export to the US.
Not at all. China is fully prepared to fight to the very end because the world is big enough that the United States is not the totality of the market in the world. So if the United States wants to go in that direction of completely shutting itself out of the China market, be my guest.
Yeah, and China will lose the US market, which, as I've said, is 15%.
We don't care. We don't care. China has been here for 5,000 years. Most of the time, there was no United States, and we survived. And if the United States wants to bully China, we will deal with the situation without the United States. And we expect to survive for another 5,000 years.
The problem is that
That nigga said, bitch, you guessed it. Bitch, you right. Bitch, we don't need you. Bitch, who is you? Bitch, we don't give a fuck. Bitch, come try us. He said, Zhang Jing said, bitch, it is what it is. We'll put y'all in a blunt and smoke you, bitch. Bitch, suck my dick. Bitch, I don't give a fuck what you talking about, why? Fuck what you talking about, why? That's what, see, Chinese people don't give a fuck. They like, nigga, what? China, he said, China, we don't care. We don't care, bitch. He wanted to call her a white bitch. White bitch, we don't care. He said China will exist 5,000 years from now because America is a present. It ain't a future. Smoking boots. Like, comment, and subscribe. Smoking boots. I was trying to find that video. It was on the, yeah, that was funny though. That was crazy. He said, we don't care. Never thought I was going to lose this when Trump voted and admit tariffs. Let's see what this white person says.
Tired of settling for therapists that don't click? I was too. until I found Rula. Rula changed the game.
We want to have as many bees as we can to make honey.
At Secret Garden Bees, a honey farm in Linden, North Carolina, farmer Jim Hartman has one eye on his bees and the other on his bank account.
Ideally, we'll get 100 pounds of honey per hive per year.
How do you feel about paying more for things?
Well, you know, if you find someone who says, I'm happy about paying more for something, you point them out to me. People who already couldn't afford fresh vegetables, who couldn't already afford to put good food on their plate, are the ones that are really going to be hurt by this.
Did you ever think when you voted for President Trump that things were going to cost you more and you were going to lose money?
I never thought I was going to lose this much money, this fast.
Jim is a Republican who voted for Donald Trump 3 times.
How do you feel about your vote for Donald Trump now?
Well, I feel like perhaps I should have considered some other options.
Among other things, Jim imports packaging supplies for his honey, so he's paying real close attention to the tariffs Trump just put in place.
We just bought our year's supply of bottles from Taiwan and our year's supply of corks from Portugal about 3 weeks ago. So that would have been, another $5,000 or $6,000 out of my pocket.
Which is partly why he's repairing instead of replacing this 40-year-old forklift.
The cost of equipment has just gone through the roof to buy anything like that because it just would be cost prohibitive.
He's also holding off on improvements around the farm.
Well, we're not going to hire any more people, that's for sure.
It's more than just the tariffs.
He wanted to say no more Mexicans, Venezuelans, they all the same. He wanted to say that so bad, but he's politically correct. I like that.
For the past 2 years, Jim has been selling honey to the federal government, which then provides it to schools and food banks. But after Donald Trump took office, the USDA cut those programs suddenly as part of the federal government's effort to streamline spending.
For a lot of other local farmers around here, it was a major source of reliable revenue. For me, it's going to cost me around $150,000 a year.
$150,000.
Yeah, roughly 50% of my revenue.
That's a huge hit.
That's a massive hit.
Not far from Jim's farm, we found other Trump supporters who give the president high marks on tariffs.
How do you feel about the tariffs?
Well, I feel like for years we've been getting ripped off, and why not make it fair? 0-0. And I think Trump was upfront about it. He said we're going to hurt some now.
I think some of the countries they're already starting to come around. It's going to be good. I really believe that.
You have faith in Trump?
Yes, I do.
I think he's doing the right thing. In order for us to get back where we need to be, he needs to get the money somewhere, and they're charging us. Why not charge them?
Back at Jim's farm, though, still plenty of worry. He says raw honey is considered a luxury good, similar to organic vegetables. As prices rise,
I don't know what that's going to do to consumer spending.
Trump paused the majority of the tariffs for 90 days after we'd left Jim's farm. Jim told us by phone, it's flip-flopped so many times you can't take it to the bank. Who knows what it will be next week? Adding, it seems like he's heard the American people. Randy Kay, CNN, Linden, North Carolina.
All of this volatility and uncertainty brought on by the trade war that we were just talking about. You've got China announcing it's raising retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods from 84% to 25%. That coming after President Trump hiked the rate of Chinese goods, the rate on Chinese goods coming into America from 104% now to 145%. All of that, creating so much uncertainty, is having a real and immediate impact on businesses big and small across the country. One small business owner joined us on the show just yesterday describing how the daily chaos and the changes in policy have left her with no good options.
It's hard to make a decision. We had an idea yesterday after the announcement of, well, maybe we can export to Australia, repackage the products, and then re-import them from there. But because policy changes every 36 hours or so, I don't want to make that decision and make that move only for something else to change in just a couple more days. I'm paralyzed. I can't even make a decision right now.
paralyzed. Another big area of concern is what this means for American farmers, of course. China is, among other things.
Isn't CNN owned by Disney? God damn it. I didn't think this was a CNN. It's HBO. HBO. Oh no, it's owned by Warner Brothers. Thank God.
The biggest export market for American soybeans. China bought 52% of the American soybean exports last year, throwing American soybean farmers, understandably, into a whole new level of uncertainty right now. And joining me right now is Scott Metzger. He's a soybean farmer out of Ohio, also serves on the board of directors for the American Soybean Association. Scott, thank you very much for waking up and taking time to speak with me this morning. This change, I was looking forward to getting your take yesterday afternoon, and now we have this new change overnight coming from China announcing 125% tariff on all U.S. goods coming in. That includes on soybeans. What does this tariff on this new level of tariff on your produce mean for you?
Good morning, Kate. Yeah, it's an alarming concern. With the tighter farm economy that we're in now, the tariffs are just adding issues to problems that we already have. We want to.
Well, that's too damn bad.
It's just making it more complex and making it harder to make decisions on what we need to do.
I've heard the word complex from a couple farmers actually as well. It's already a complicated situation, and now it's becoming even more complex. I mean, you're, I believe, a sixth-generation farmer, farming with your brother and cousins. Scott, how does this moment feel for you?
Well, we never have, going back to 2018. We really haven't recovered from the tariff trade wars back then, and we were probably 40% higher on soybean prices back then, and the farm economy in general was a lot better back then. So you go forward to now with what we are, and a lot tighter farm economy, and complex, and adding these tariffs to it, it makes things really, really difficult. A fear that we have, if this continues into the fall or even into next year, there's a potential that there'll be some farms go out of business. You could have a next generation not want to come back or not able to come back just because of the economies or the farm situation in general. And adding these tariffs to this, there's just no room for error. But personally, in our operation in the state of Ohio last year, we were in extreme drought.
Trump is white savior. He's white God. He's white Jesus to every white person, or I'll say 89% of white people in the United States and probably other nationalist states across the world. He is Jesus' second coming. They don't question him, and he's questioning them, and I want them to slap him in the mouth.
And we roughly had half of a soybean crop and a corn crop last year. So in our area, it's feeling even a little bit more. Having less of a commodity sale and these lower prices, and now we're throwing the tariffs on top of it. It just makes things very difficult.
And at the White House, in his cabinet meeting yesterday, the agriculture secretary spoke up, talking about, if there's one thing, if people know, a group of people who know uncertainty would be farmers and ranchers. And I'm wondering what your ask, your plea, or just your message would be to the president in the midst of this, given your long experience and what you guys are facing.
Yeah, we urge the administration to to quickly couple the announcement with some negotiations to address the tariff and non-tariff barriers with the U.S.
I'm gonna tell you one thing: Trump don't give a flying fuck what you say. USA, USA, USA.
Exports. We want to, and we're thankful for the 90-day grace period that we got to help some of the other countries come to the table and negotiate with the president before any more reciprocal tariffs comes on for those other countries, and also with China. Let's get to the table and get some things done. Maybe introduce the phase 2 trade deal on this, just so we don't have this prolonged suffering for the U.S. ag economy. And even with that, it even goes to it's not only the ag economy, but it's the rural economy as well. For every dollar we spend, it kind of rolls out probably 4, 5, 6 times in our local rural economy. So as a whole, if you don't have a strong farm economy, it usually then goes on down into your rural economy as well.
Yeah, the ripple effects, and as anyone knows, I mean, I grew up in a small town. The ripple effects are very real when the farm economy is struggling.
Yes.
Scott, it is really good to meet you. Thank you very much for coming in.
So when a client comes to us with an ask to launch an influencer marketing campaign, the process is pretty streamlined. So what we'll do is we'll get into the Popular Pays platform, start to build out a brief, creators and influencers,
then goes on down into your rural economy.
Well, all right. That seems to be it. Like I said, like, comment, and subscribe. Don't be a hater. Don't be a mother effing hater. Like, comment, and subscribe to your boy. You feel me? And go look at my clips. Thank you for fucking with me, clips. Go look at them. Go repost them, retweet them. Do whatever you need to do. I'm going to put these Pokemon cards in their protective sleeves so I can sell them later. Do it. It's not hurting you, bro. Stop being a hater. Stop. It's ugly.